mahirap kung ayaw niyang harapin ito kasi napakarami ng disinformation saka fake news.
From his tax conviction, billions of pesos in unpaid estate tax, involvement during martial law, to his college degree, Marcos has been hounded by a number of issues, fighting attempts to kick him out of the presidential race. But he still enjoys a wide lead in pre-election surveys, Robredo in distant second. Robredo says the debate would give voters the opportunity to take a close look at his track record, character, and platform. His spokesperson rejects it outright, pointing out this will never happen. They would rather focus on positive campaigning and shun attacking opponents. Marcos has been skipping debates, including the past two hosted by the COMELEC. Like Marcos, Robredo turns down the COMELEC's panel interview to spend time with volunteers.
Kaming ibang kandidato, prinisinta namin yung sarili namin. Sa kanya, hindi nagkaroon ng gano'n na pagkakataon na yung mga issues na kinakaharap niya ay hindi magkaroon ng opportunity yung taong bayan para marinig kung ano talaga yung totoo.
Another presidential candidate, Labor leader Leody de Guzman, says the debate would be more meaningful if he would be included to make sure that issues of the masses are given importance. Her running mate, Senator Kiko Pangilinan, also issues the same challenge to frontrunner Davao City Mayor Sara Duterte.
Dapat humarap si Sara. Dapat humarap si BBM. Silang dalawa. Kasi kami lumiligaw sa taong bayan. At pag lumiligaw, dapat humaharap para makilatis. Para magkaroon ng pagkakataon, malaman anong plano sa buhay ng 110 milyong Pilipino.
Robredo continues with her Calabarzon tour, the region with the most vote-rich population. Over 9 million votes are up for grabs. Anjo Alimario, CNN Philippines.
Other presidential candidates find Robredo's one-on-one challenge to Marcos unfair. Former National Security Advisor Norberto Gonzales says this skews the level playing field for all candidates. He adds this shows that the vice president wants voters to believe that it is just a one-on-one fight between her and Marcos. Meanwhile, Faisal Mandato describes Robredo's dare to Marcos as presumptuous and disrespectful of other presidential hopefuls. Now, who can Filipinos expect to participate in the COMELEC's panel interviews? The list is on your screens. The poll body says only 6 out of 10 presidential candidates agreed to join, but none of the survey frontrunners are attending. They cite lack of time to squeeze in the forum during the final stretch of the campaign period. Only 4 out of 9 vice presidential bets are also joining. The hour-long interviews will be taped as live and will air from May 2 to May 6 on KBP or kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas member networks. As COMELEC's initial probe into the debate mess develops into a full-blown investigation, one commissioner wants poll body spokesperson James Jimenez to be temporarily relieved of his duties. Commissioner Ray Bulay recommended that Jimenez and his deputy, Education and Information Department Director Francis Arabe, should temporarily stop their media exposure. Bulay says Jimenez and Arabe can still carry out internal tasks in the commission. Jimenez has not responded to requests for comment, while Arabe says she is preparing a statement. No word yet from Chairman Saidamen Pangarungan's office on whether or not the recommendation has been approved. Bulay earlier questioned the two officials for making a 15.3 million peso fund request to pay Impact Hub Manila, the company behind Vote Pilipinas. Vote Pilipinas failed to pay 14 million pesos to venue holder or to the venue for the debates, Hotel Sofitel, for the vice presidential and presidential debates that were supposed to be held on April 23rd and the 24th. Some presidential candidates make their last-minute pitches 10 days before the Filipino votes. Senator Manny Pacquiao presents himself as an alternative candidate, as he claims there will be trouble if either Bongbong Marcos or Leni Robredo wins.
Ito lang sabihin ko sa inyo, pag manalo si Bongbong, hindi matitigil yung kaguluhan. Hindi matitigil kasi buti kung papayag yung Dilawan. Kung manalo naman ang Dilawan, papayag kaya ang kabila. So, ganun na lang palagi ang politika natin dito. Hindi na tayo nakapokus doon sa economic growth and development sa ating bansa. Ang naapektuhan yung taong bayan.
Senator Ping Lacson campaigns in Robredo's bailiwick, the Bicol region. He visited the provinces of Catanduanes, Albay, and the vice president's home province, Camarines Sur. Lacson admits he felt the cold reception of the crowd in Naga City at first, but was relieved to see them warm up to him afterward.
After the open forum, something really changed, Talagang na-reverse yung situation. So we'd like to think na yung conversion napakalaki. Kasi naiba talaga. Very, very noticeable. In fact, nag-extend kami, kaya medyo late kami. Naghahabol kami ng oras. We were supposed to take off, I think, 30, 45 minutes earlier, So na-delay. Kasi na-engage talaga sila.
Lacson's running mate Tito Soto met with mayors of Cebu's 7th District. They are members of the One Cebu party that already endorsed Sara Duterte's vice president. The 7th District mayors and officials wore campaign shirts and caps with Soto's name. Soto believes their support means they are endorsing him, although there was no announcement made. Senator Manny Pacquiao says he would only back out of the presidential race if he gets a sign from God. What is divine intervention supposedly telling him amid low survey rankings and calls to withdraw? CNN Philippines sat down with Pacquiao as part of an ongoing series of one-on-one interviews with presidential candidates. CNN Arcangel has the highlights of the in-private interview.
Senator Manny Pacquiao is pushing through with his presidential bid despite calls for his withdrawal. A born-again Christian, Pacquiao believes God will help him win the biggest fight of his life.
Alam mo, yung sinasabing sign ay mas pinatibay pa ng Panginoon yung paniniwala ko. Pinatibay pa ng Panginoon yung paniniwala ko na tuloy ang laban para ito sa for God and country ito. I know that God is with me and God will give me success. Yan yung ano ko kasi itong intention ko hindi naman para sa akin. Para ito sa taong bayan. Kung pagbibigyan lang nila ko, kung hindi lang pagbibigyan, sayang. Ang akin lang is sayang. Sayang yung pagkakataon.
Whatever is the result come May 9, the 43-year-old Pacquiao says he will no longer return to the boxing ring. It was boxing that catapulted Pacquiao to worldwide fame and paved the way for his political career.
If you ask me right now, ang feeling ko, nag-retire na ako eh. Nag-retire na ako.
You will not unretire?
Although pag sinabi kong, yes, retire, pero sa isip ko ngayon, 100% retire na ako. Ang tagal ko na sa boxing eh. At least, once upon a time, napagkaisa ko yung bansang Pilipinas. Napagkaisa ko, nailagay ko sa mapa yung bansa natin.
If elected president, Pacquiao says his wife Jinky and mother Jonisha will not hold any government position. He's also advising his children against entering politics anytime soon, even if two of his brothers currently have seats in Congress.
Ang sinasabi ko sa kanila, tulungan niyo muna yung sarili niyo. Pag stable na yung sarili niyo, saka kayo mag-offer ng tulong sa ibang sa tao. Kasi pag pumasok kayo sa public service tapos hindi pa stable yung sarili niyo, I'm sure makukurap ka, maging corrupt ka rin, maging traditional politician ka, magiging kawatan ka.
Pacquiao is coy about his campaign spending. Unlike the others, his political rallies rarely feature celebrities. Only one has consistently joined his sorties, senatorial candidate and former Eastern Samar Governor Lutgardo Barbo, who is a member of his Promdi political party.
Ako kasi, hindi ako yung todo-todo na gastosan dahil ang akin lang naman is honest na pagserbisyo. Kasi kung gastusin ko lahat ng pera ko, ganyan, pag ako naging presidente, siyempre babawiin ko yun. Ayaw ko maging kurap. Ayaw ko maging trapo.
Throughout his boxing career, Pacquiao faced opponents much bigger than him. In aiming for the presidency, Pacquiao knows the odds are stacked against him, but as you would expect, he's not throwing in the towel until the people have decided. CN Arcangel, CNN Philippines.
Coming up on Newsnight, Senator Laila de Lima wants self-confessed drug dealer Kerwin Espinosa to take the witness stand for her drug cases. And in Hollywood, two talk show hosts are getting ready to bid goodbye. Details right here on CNN Philippines.
LG.
Berto po, nagsasaka para mapakain ng pamilya. Sa halalan, huwag niyo kong kalimutan.
Rina po, contractual worker sa fast food. Sa halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan. Ako si Nila, labandera, nagsisika para sa pag-aaral ng mga anak. Sa darating na halalan, huwag niyo akong kalimutan.
Sa boto mo, apektado ang buong bayan. Sa halalan, huwag natin sila kalimutan. Paalala ng Ad Standards Council, Ad Foundation, KBP at ng himpilang ito.
Nagbabagang COVID tweet mula kay IP address 129-451-219. Ang totoong gamot sa COVID-19 ay all caps. Pinakulo ang soda na may itlog ng bulag na itik. Tag friend, tag friend, tag friend.
Huwag paloko, mag-fact check muna. Ang totoong balita, tunog tama, dapat tama. Isang paalaala mula sa KBP at ng istasyong ito.
Photo upload ng itik. May shade sa mata. 12 likes, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
Kakapost lang ni Doc Green Official. Alam mo, space ba na green face mask is better than blue? Question mark, exclamation. Green equal sign dahon. Dahon equal sign kalikasan. Therefore, mask plus sign green equal sign nature protected letter U.
Huwag paloko, mag-fact check muna. Ang totoong balita, tunog tama, dapat tama. Isang paalaala mula sa KBP at ng istasyong ito.
Health workers
Blue
continue
plus
to
sign,
backtrack
blue plus sign,
against
yellow
the
divided
first
sign by rainbow equal sign.
12 case in the country, but with less testing efforts, is it safe to say that the new Omicron subvariant has not spread in the community? Caroline Bonkin reports.
19 days since the visitor from Finland tested positive for COVID, Baguio City remains with up to 3 infections a week. The Finnish woman was carrying the BA.2.12 Omicron subvariant. And if it indeed has spread, City Health Officer Rowena Galpo says COVID cases would have been higher by now.
Yung incubation period na binibilang natin na 14 days ay lumampas na. Sa mga contacts na na-identify natin, sana nag-manifest na rin sila. Kung talagang nag-spread na yun, there could have been indications already na nag-spread. But none, so actually there is no cause for alarm.
The 52-year-old Finnish had 5 close contacts in Baguio City. 3 were tested for COVID, all negative.
They were fully vaccinated. Malaking bagay yon. Nakamask sila.
She also had 9 close contacts in Quezon City and 30 on the plane. The chief of the Philippine Genome Center says there are no signs the woman has infected others.
We can completely discount the possibility, but that is very, very low. There seems to be no onward transmission.
To monitor the exact trend of cases, testing is key, says infectious disease specialist Ron Jean Solante. But testing has declined significantly as COVID cases go down. During the peak of Omicron, more than 500,000 Filipinos were being tested every week. Today, it's just around 100,000 or even less.
Number of tested has gone down because there are also less people that has the symptoms. People who have symptoms and only mild don't go for testing anymore.
He adds, vaccinated people also tend to have shorter duration of symptoms.
That's against the principle of testing. Why will you test when you don't have the symptoms?
But Solante insists samples from infected international travelers should all be checked for variants. Recent DOH guidelines only recommend testing for clinical management and for groups at higher risk of infection, not for asymptomatics. With lower testing, the Philippine Genome Center has fewer samples to run, which means fewer people are being checked for variants. In a statement, the DOH says the observed increase in cases per 100,000 people was small and not sustained and could have not led to any sustained increase in hospital admissions. Caroline Bonkin, CNN Philippines.
Cases may be spreading faster here in Metro Manila, which is now classified as low risk from very low risk for COVID-19. The Octa Research Group says the reproduction number, or the number of people a single case can infect, is slightly up from 0.62 to 0.71. The reproduction number must be less than 1 to say transmission is on the decline. The Health Department notes hospitalization remains low, but warns the public not to be complacent. That's because another surge may happen in the run-up to the May 9 polls. But Metro Manila will remain under alert level 1 on election day, as well as the areas on your screens. This will take effect from May 1 to May 15. Other parts of the country will be under alert level 2. Visit our social media pages for full details. Apart from having to fight for their ancestral lands, indigenous communities also face broken promises made from one administration to the next. Some unfulfilled promises are costing indigenous people their lives. Tristan Nadalo spoke to some leaders of the Dumagat tribe in Rizal province in this report on Sectors on the Sidelines.
It takes time and effort to reach the Dumagat communities of Rizal province. It's no wonder, at least for the May elections, not a single presidential or vice presidential candidate dared to campaign in their area.
Puro pangako. Pero talaga po sir, nakakasawa na rin yung pangako ng pangako ang mga kandidato.
For the last 3 decades, JV says nothing has changed in the lives of his fellow Dumagats.
Magtatanim na po halos lahat ng katutubo. Hanggang ngayon po'y magtatanim pa rin. So hindi po namin makita kung paano kami umaangat.
From one administration to another, their sentiments on their ancestral lands, their children's education, and equal access to opportunities remain the same.
Yung pong aming karapatan bilang mga katutubo, minsan po'y nababaliwala. Yung tira-tira na lang ang napupunta po sa amin. Parang ganun.
They long for a concrete bridge in their community in Daraitan, a promise that has yet to be fulfilled.
Pag bumaha po at biglang may emergency po dito, hindi kaya naming ibangka, ay maghihintay na lang po yung aming pasyente na mamatay dito sa loob. Hindi na namin madadala sa ospital dahil wala po kaming tulay.
Kakaroon tayo ng mga panibagong leader. Ano po yung pinakagusto nyong magbago sa buhay nyo na tugunan o dapat tugunan ng mga susunod na leader ng bansa?
Yung mga pag-aaral ng mga anak namin, dahil ito po talaga yung pangunahin po para sa amin, na yung mga anak namin naman talaga ay makapag-aral kahit na kaunti o hindi man makatapos ng matataas na antas. Sa totoo lang, ako grade 4 lang inabot ko. Halos hirap pa akong bumasa nung mga English, hindi ko po talaga kayang basahin.
The Dumagat community hopes to see real changes soon, not only for their tribe, but also for the rest of the indigenous groups in the country.
Kami namang maliliit ang inyong pagpukusan. Dahil sa totoo lang, mas marami po ang mahirap kaysa sa mayaman dito sa Pilipinas. Mas marami po ang naghihirap katulad naming mga katutubo.
Tristan Nadalo, CNN Philippines, Rizal Province.
Senator Laila de Lima is looking to bring a self-confessed drug dealer to her side to fight her drug cases. De Lima's lawyers believe Kerwin Espinosa's recantation is just the tip of the iceberg. Amor Santos has that story.
The truth is finally coming out. These were Senator Laila de Lima's words, according to her spokesperson, when she learned Kerwin Espinosa took back his testimonies against her. In 2016, the alleged drug lord joined the chorus of other inmates in linking the former Justice Secretary to illegal drugs.
Magkano ang kabuang pera na ibigay mo na para daw kay Ma'am Laila? Nakumpleto ko yung sinabi ni Ronnie na magbigay ako ng 8 million before mag-eleksyon. Wala naman akong hinihingi kasi yung sa area ko, wala namang problema doon sa takbo ng negosyo ko sa droga.
More than 5 years later, Espinosa is singing a different tune.
May God forgive you for all your sins, and may God forgive you for all your lies about me. And I forgive you. Maraming salamat po.
In a counter-affidavit, he admitted to making stories up due to threats from the police who supposedly coerced him to pin down De Lima. The senator's camp is now leaning toward presenting him as a witness for the defense, and Espinosa's lawyer said his client is willing to do so. The camp of De Lima adds it may soon file a supplemental pleading at the Court of Appeals, citing Espinosa's about-face and securing the dismissal of one of her 2 pending drug cases. But the prosecution maintains it does not need Espinosa's testimony to prove the senator's guilt. Justice Secretary Menardo Guevara adds Espinosa has to prove that his sworn statements were made under threat or he may be held liable for perjury for lying under oath.
I presided the hearing and it was an open hearing, a public hearing that everybody was free to talk. And they were placed under oath. They were administered their oath. So ang assumption at the time, they would tell the truth and they told the truth.
Senator Bato de la Rosa, chairman of the Committee on Public Order and Dangerous Drugs, said he might call for a hearing on the issue. But Espinosa's lawyer notes his client has pending criminal cases in court. As calls mount for De Lima's freedom, the re-electionist hopes her other accusers would speak up and end her 5-year ordeal in detention. Amor Santos, CNN Philippines.
Straight ahead on Newsnight, we run through what pageant fans can expect in tomorrow's much-awaited Miss Universe Philippines Coronation Night. And this one's for K-pop enthusiasts. The collaboration between Psy and Suga of BTS is out. A sneak peek when we come back.
Ang totoong gamot sa COVID-19 ay all caps. Pinakulo ang soda na may itlog ng bulag na itik. Tag friend, tag friend, tag friend.
Huwag paloko, mag-fact check muna. Ang totoong balita, tunog tama, dapat tama. Isang paalaala mula sa KBP at ng istasyong ito.
Photo upload ng itik. May shades sa mata. 12 likes, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17.
DYKB Radio Ronda.
Not only can bugs leave an itchy patch, but they can also cause life-threatening conditions like anaphylaxis, as well as lethal illnesses like dengue or even malaria. In this episode, we discuss how to treat insect bites and stings and anything in between, as well as how to get rid of pests that pose risks to our health. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and welcome to Med Talk Health Talk on CNN Philippines. Let's welcome our guests for this episode. With us is Dr. Jason Arboleda. He's an emergency medicine specialist from Hospital na Makati and Fatima University Medical Center. Also with us is Dr. Jarla Golmatico Flores. She's the chair of Public Relations and External Affairs of the Philippine Dermatological Society. Let's start our discussion with mosquitoes, which is very common sa Pilipinas because of tropical weather here in our country. It's characterized by warm temperatures and rainfall where mosquitoes like to live. And These bloodsuckers are known to carry vector-borne
Welcome back to
diseases.
CNN Philippines.
such as
Just one day
dengue,
left until
chikungunya,
Beatriz
and
Luigi
malaria.
Gomez
Dr.
passes
Jason,
the crown
umpisahan
to the
natin
new
kung
Miss
ano ba ibig
Universe
sabihin ng
Philippines.
vector-borne?
3 former Miss Universe
Vector-borne
queens will
means,
host the coronation night.
parang may carrier.
Our very own Pia Wurtzbach,
So,
Iris
the
Midno of
mosquito
France,
itself,
and
it
Demi Lee
needs to
Thibault of South
contain
Africa.
either the
Reigning
virus or the
Queen Arnal
parasite,
Sandu
so it might
will
get
be
it
a special
from
guest.
another animal,
And among
another
the
human
night's
being.
performers are
It
local
takes
music
that, it
icons
becomes the
Bamboo,
vector,
Sam
and then it
Concepcion,
passes
and
on to another
Morissette.
organism.
32
Now, Dr.
candidates
Jason,
will vie for the
pag-usapan naman
crown
natin ng
tomorrow
dengue
at
because
Mall
this
of
is
Asia
very
Arena
common
at
na
7
tinatransmit
p.m.
ng mga mosquitoes.
In music,
When
the
it comes
collaboration
to
between
dengue,
K-pop
ano yung mga unang
icons Psy
signs
and
ng
Suga
mga
of
pasyenteng
BTS
pupasok
is
sa
finally
ER with
here.
dengue?
Almost all of the
That was
time,
produced
they
by
present
the
with
BTS
fever.
rapper and is the title
Fever,
track for Psy's ninth
body
full
aches,
album.
sama
Here's a look at
pakiramdam.
the music video
Yun
that just
usually yung mga
dropped.
unang nararamdaman ng mga pasyente na may dengue. Yung mga nose bleeding, yung mga nahihilo, later na yan eh. Pero ang pinaka-una talaga nila nararamdaman, most of the time, is the fever.
Dr. Jarla, could you talk
Psy's
about
12-track
the mosquito
album,
bites? I'm sure a lot of our
Psy 9
viewers
was
have
released
experienced
alongside
this,
the video.
but just
The artist
to be
first
clear,
found
what
global
does
fame
a
with his
typical
viral
mosquito bite
2013 hit,
look like,
Gangnam
and
Style.
how should this
And that
be
is it for
handled?
now. Joining me again on News.ph at 7 p.m. I'm Pia Altaveras for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Carbon dioxide that we usually exhale. So they usually use heat and movement, even the visual cues from us as humans. That's the time they think that you're a possible host. Now, when you see a mosquito bite, this would usually look like
Good day to all. Welcome to our continuing education program on election law.
So it's quite
This is
dense,
Attorney Al
and it's
Agra,
hard and
your
very
election
small
law for
amount
all
as well.
When
professor.
it comes to the mosquito
For
bite,
today,
one common symptom
we will
is
learn
it's
about
very
the
itchy.
voting
What are the
process.
risks of those who keep on scratching a mosquito bite?
Usually the patients would tend to scratch it.
In
and
observance of
itchiness
health
would go away.
protocols,
But the thing
voters
is that,
must go
if
through
you keep on
a health
scratching
check.
it, you might
Paalala
cause
lamang sa lahat,
heat reaction.
kahit
When
pa
you say
ang
heat
temperatura
reaction,
mo
that can
ay
be
38
an itching
degrees,
or redness
ikaw
on the
ay
part
maaaring
that is
bumoto
not bitten
sa
by this
isolation
mosquito.
place.
So usually we don't really advise patients
Then the
to keep
voter
on scratching
approaches
it.
the
Or
voter's
if we cause what,
assistance
opening
desk
of your
to check
skin
if
that
his
might cause
or her
another
name
problem,
is
which is
listed
bacterial infection.
under a
The
clustered
next insect on our
precinct.
list, ants. These are bright red ants and they have a
Tapos,
sting in their bite,
pupuntahan niya
equivalent of
ang
being
Electoral
burned by
Board
a hot
or
object.
EB.
Now, let's talk about that, Dr.
I-announce
Jason.
ng EB
When it
chair
comes to
ang kanyang
ants,
pangalan.
depending on where the
Maaring
ant bites,
may mag-challenge sa
especially if
kanya
they bite,
na
in the
kapwa
ear
botante
because of the
o
chemical that
watcher
has
on two
napakasama
grounds.
ito, it is very
Kung
irritating
siya
as well.
ay
But
illegal na
should our
botante
viewers understand,
or siya
especially
ay
with
may
insects
ginagawang
that enter,
illegal.
the ear?
Ang unang instinct kasi
The
is to
EB
try
chair
to
will then hand over the ballot
try tanggalin.
inside a secrecy
So usually
folder
what that does
and a
is
marking
it-
pen
not just ants,
to
even
the voter.
things like cockroaches and mice. Ang mangyayari, mas papasok yung insect.
The
na yan.
voter votes
So,
by
if that happens,
fully shading
it
the
will
ovals
cause
across the
problems
names
for the
of
patient,
candidates and party
also for
list
the
organizations.
medical practitioner who's going
Di
to try
dapat
to
lagyan
remove that
ng
insect.
pangalan
Ginagawa namin usually
o
like
anumang
just using
marka
the ERB's
ang
video.
balota.
So it
Ang
suffocates the
botante
insect.
at hindi
You
membro
can
ng
just
EB
renders it immobile.
ang maglalagay ng
Tanggalin ang
balota
insect kapag
sa
hindi
vote
na
counting
pinipiglas.
machine.
Since Dr. Jason mentioned, let's talk about cockroaches this time. Dr. Jarla, when someone is bitten by a cockroach, is there a distinct look to this, especially when someone probably was bitten while asleep and then they just see a mark there? Is there anything that our viewers should be wary about, especially with larger insects like a cockroach bite?
Usually they have to remember that the most common sites of the cockroach bites would be on the mouth, fingers, face, hands, and feet. Why? Because these are the areas that we usually use for eating. And then the residues would usually be found on those areas. So that's why the cockroach would, tend to go to that area and then tend to bite you. Because if there are no food residues, usually the cockroach won't really that bite. Now, the thing is, the lesions of the cockroach bites would look like they have swelling on that particular area. There's also itchy, rashes, and usually the minor complication would arise if you keep on scratching on those areas. So what we usually do, if the patients would see that they have cockroach bite, they have to rinse it with water and soap right after they saw the bite, because cockroach would tend to crawl anywhere, and then this might cause infection later on and further discomfort.
When it comes to cockroach bites, mosquito bites, ant bites. Iba-iba ba yung treatment ng mga ito, or is there one cream to cure them all?
For first aid, what we usually tell the patient, since there's a swelling, you can put ice packs, okay? So ice on, ice off. Ice pack for 15 minutes, then ice off for the next 15 minutes. So that's the thing they can do. And then they can put calamine lotion because this is an antihistamine cream. So when you say antihistamine cream, this would relieve the itchiness. Because if you actually didn't improve or didn't remove the itchiness on that area, patients might tend to scratch it. Now, patient might self-medicate with antihistamine. They can do that, but they have to take it maybe once a day lang. If it's not effective to them, they have to consult their doctors already.
Coming up, we'll discuss more serious pests that may potentially put you at risk. Your health is our mission here on MedTalk Health Talk. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and welcome back to MedTalk Health Talk, where caring is our calling. Today, we're talking about insect bites and other house pests that pose risks to our health. Now, there are many species of bees, wasps, and even hornets in the country, and it's good to know that they will not sting you unless provoked. Getting stung by these creatures can be very painful, and for some, even lethal if they are allergic. It's best to stay away from hives and nests to avoid any stinging. Kapag ang isang tao ay nakagat, those who are stung with this, what should their first aid treatment be?
First, try to clean the wound. Soap and water. Some bees leave their stinger on the skin. So, actually, the bee dies the bee might die when it stings because may iwan, basically, open, inaiwan yung stinger. So, that stinger should be removed. Otherwise, it will continue injecting venom into the body. Once the wound is clean, you can apply topical ointments. Pwede kasi magkaroon ng what we call envenomation. These insects have venom which may cause fatal allergic reaction called anaphylaxis.
What are some of the distinct symptoms that a person is undergoing anaphylactic reaction, Dr. Jason?
Anaphylaxis can be manifested in a lot of ways. Ang pinaka-common dito would be nagkakaroon ng maraming rashes yung patient. Another symptom would be difficulty of breathing. Nahihirapan huminga. Basically, parang napupuno yung lalamunan. Actually, that's a danger sign. Ibig sabihin, nagko-close up na yung airway, at hindi na makakahinga yung patient unless something else is done. Other symptoms for anaphylaxis, surprisingly, vomiting, diarrhea, pwede rin magkaroon ng chest pains. So, if a patient that's stung, or actually, any other allergen, exposed to any allergen, experiences those symptoms, they should go to the emergency room.
Now, Dr. Jarla, aside from anaphylaxis, there's also a condition called Stevens-Johnson syndrome. Can this also be caused by insect stings, or are other factors involved in this?
Your skin generally would have redness, okay? And then usually if it's not treated earlier, it can cause blistering, and then there would be peeling off your skin, or what we call the epidermal attachment. So if it's more than 30% already, we call that toxic epidermal necrolysis. So this is quite an emergency case for dermatologists because we have to treat it right away. Otherwise, we couldn't prevent the complications arising from this hypersensitivity reaction.
Since we're talking about a lot of these insect bites, one of the really common ones here in the Philippines are bed bugs or ang surot. So when it comes to these bites, are there distinct characteristics of a bite from bed bugs? Because more often than not, we won't be able to observe if a bed bug does bite one of us.
It's quite itchy, when you are usually bitten by the bed bugs. Usually, they would just stay as papullovesicles or papules vesicles. But if you keep on scratching it, they would become what you call the will hive or parang urticarial papules. So, pag sinabi mo ng urticarial papules, para siyang hive yung nagmapa-mapa na dun sa area. So, kaya nga, usually we tell the patients, do not scratch it because the tendency is that, the swelling would try to spread on the area of the skin, and this may cause what further problems in the skin later on. Make sure that you change your linens, your beddings at least every week. Okay, so they have to clean it, especially the linens, the beddings, because that's where the bed bugs would usually want to stay.
Now let's move over to snakes. Here in the Philippines, there are a lot of snakes, venomous and non-venomous ones as well. But it's also good to know what to do in case you are presented with one, and if you are bitten by one for that matter. What should our viewers do when it comes to snakes?
Well, if you're bitten by a snake, for some, the first instinct is to try and capture the snake. Okay, that's a very bad idea because you might not be able to know if that snake is poisonous or not. So if you want to identify it in this day and age, almost everyone has a smartphone. Picturean nyo, leave the snake wrangling to the professionals. Pwedeng gawin sa wound. First is to clean it with some soap and water. If there's bleeding, apply some pressure on it. Dun sa mga ginagawa na sisip-sipin o kaya hihiwaan tapos papaduguin. Okay. Hindi totoo yun. That causes more harm, more problems down the road for medical practitioners who will treat the patient. Okay. So, after cleaning the wound, if there's no more bleeding, the other things that can be done, the extremity, usually kasi sa naman yan, arms or legs na kakagat ng tao, immobilize the part, cause further movement will increase the speed with which the venom reaches the other parts of the body. Okay, so if there's a neurotoxin, it's going to go to the brain faster. We can put what we call a constriction band, for those who are familiar with being drawn ng blood, di ba? Parang may naglalagay yung kumukuha ng blood, may ginalagay siyang masikip.
Coming up, we'll continue sharing tips on how to keep yourself and your home pest-free. You're watching MedTalk Health Talk. We'll be right back. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez and this is MedTalk Health Talk, your partner in healthcare. Now, Dr. Jason, pag-usapan naman natin ang rats because rats are also very common here in the Philippines. And when someone is bitten by a rat or nandaga, one of the fears that they may have is magkaroon sila ng rabies because of the bite of the rat. Now, my question is, Dr. Jason, are rats a common vector for rabies?
Rats and mice and hamsters, they don't carry rabies. They can carry out other diseases, but rabies is not one of them.
One thing that a person might be given in the ER kapag nakagat siya ng daga is an anti-tetanus shot. What is this shot for, Dr. Jason, and who are those more likely to be given an anti-tetanus shot?
It's really more of who's not going to be given anti-tetanus shots. So, ang hindi lang bibigyan ng anti-tetanus shots pag dumating sa ER, especially for anything, for a wound, a burn, or a bite, would be people who have completed their anti-tetanus shots and has had a booster. Okay, so yung mga yon hindi na yung bibigyan. Everyone else needs an anti-tetanus shot. It's one of those things that really proves that an ounce of prevention is better than a pound of cure. Because once clinical tetanus sets in, the muscles of the body starts contracting and then they stop obeying the orders from the brain. So, once the muscles for eating, yung mga mouth muscles natin, or once the muscles for breathing, they stop obeying the brain, and they contract on their own. That's going to be lethal.
Now, Dr. Jala, when it comes to our skin and kapag ito ay exposed to insects, insect bites for that matter, what is a good way to manage this that people can do at home, parents can do this at home that is safe for children as well, while still maintaining that level of safety?
To prevent naman the insect bites or insect infestation, of course, number one is hygiene. They have to make sure that their body, before going to sleep, they have to make sure that there's no food residue. They have to wash themselves properly. They have to change their linens, their bedding, their curtains, once a week to make sure that they don't have bed bugs. And then they can make use also of repellents, because the repellents actually affect the insects' senses. They actually lure the insects that, you have different taste, different smell, and this can actually prevent the insects from biting the humans.
But what are effective repellents? What should our viewers watch out for? Is citronella plant effective really in taking pests at bay? Are those stickers that you can stick on the clothes of children effective ba na repellent ba itong mga to? Or is there a chemical that our viewers should look out for when they are buying their insect repellents?
Whether it is a lotion, whether it is a patch, okay? Products containing what you read DEET. Okay, so this stands for your N-diethyl metatoluamide. So this is an active ingredient that is mostly found in the insect repellent. So this is quite safe even for children. So this is also effective as well.
And before we go, any final advice, words of advice, Dr. Jason, to our viewers, especially now in the summertime, and a lot of people are out and about exposing themselves to bugs and pests?
Avoid places and environments where these mites, hornets, bees, and snakes might be living. Okay, so kung merong, for example, may trail, doon na lang siguro kayo sa trail and not wander off on your own. If you're swimming sa seas, if merong reports na baka may mga jellyfish, think twice before dipping into the water. And then in the event, if you're making travel plans, maybe have an idea if that a facility or that area has a medical facility that can treat or at least give first aid for any eventuality that might happen, be it bees bites and stings or any other injuries.
And Dr. Jarla, before we go, any advice for the viewers, especially when it comes to their skin and how to treat any bites?
Make sure that when you have an insect bite, okay, first and foremost, scratching is not the way to relieve your itchiness. So you have to clean it first, you have to sanitize it. You can put your topical calamine cream if you have at home, okay? You can put ice packs. Okay, you can make use of that, but never try to scratch it. If it persists, you have to consult your doctor already so that they may give you antihistamine and topical creams that might relieve your symptoms.
With that, I'd like to thank emergency medicine specialist Dr. Jason Arboleda and dermatologist Dr. Jarla Flores for being with us today and sharing their tips as well as their expertise. I'm Dr. Freddy Gomez, and thank you for watching MedTalk Health Talk. We'll see you again next time.
RPN Regional AM radio stations nationwide welcomes CNN Philippines, a first on radio. To bring you the latest news you can use, news you can trust. Listen to Newsnight weekdays